Hello and welcome to Adobe Live. I am here today with Jessica Yang. I'm Julian, your host today, and we are going to deep dive into a really personal topic that you might have if you have roommates. But before that, I just want to remind you that there's going to be a great chance for you to win some amazing prizes during the chat and win. Just kind of let you guys figure that out when you get there. And just, if you're in the chat, say hi to Jessica.
Hello.
And where are you calling from, or where calling from? Where are you chatting from?
Yes, exactly.
Where around the world are you coming from, so we can kind of get a little bit of more sense of like the global audience that we're building here at Adobe Live. And I can't wait to like learn more about you. And with further ado, I want to introduce you to your own work and see what you got to share with us today.
Cool. I have a little slideshow that I can show you guys about who I am. So, hello.
Hi,
Hello,
Lindsay.
everyone. Thank you for
NYC
joining.
in the house. DC, Jenny.
Ooh, awesome. All right. So my name is Jessica. I am currently a senior at the California College of the Arts. I am studying interaction design there. So a little bit about me. I am from the Bay Area. I've been born here. I've lived here my entire life, essentially. And actually, before I got into interaction design at all, I did a lot of illustration. Like growing up, I did a bunch of fine arts. I was in like art class all the time, so that was my jam. And then in senior year of high school, I was like, do I want to continue doing this for the rest of my life? So I was kind of experimenting about the different fields I could go into. And I actually did not know what interaction design was at all. And a past alumni from CCA actually encouraged me to try out this field. And I was like, why not? If I don't like it, I can always go back to doing something else. And then long story short, I kind of fell in love with interaction design. And I would say there's like a couple of reasons why I really like this. I think first and foremost, I think it's a really like interdisciplinary field. Like it's so new and it's growing so quickly. Like I've met people who are computer scientists or people who come from like a pottery background, music, and they've all come to this field and been able to apply their expertise to it.
Right.
So I think that just makes the breadth of projects people are able to work on, as well as like the solutions that come out of them, super, super diverse.
Yeah.
And then secondly, I know it's kind of cheesy, but it's really about like designing for people. That's what I really love about it. Because I think as a designer, like first and foremost, you do it because you really enjoy creating and you love doing what you do. But I think ultimately it's also about designing for someone else. And I think that's what interaction design is really valuable in, because you learn about different people and you learn about how to solve their problems.
So question, do you consider yourself a interaction designer or a user experience designer?
So I have written here like an interaction/product designer, because I mean, I feel like it's still a little bit early for me to really define myself as one role, but this is the stuff I've been mostly doing as of late. And yeah, some past things I've done, I've interned at Hulu this summer actually as a product design intern, which is super rad. And next semester, I'm going to be an interaction design intern at PunchCut. So hence why I said interaction/product designer.
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. But yeah, to your point, I think what I'm most attracted to in interaction design is like the UX, like really learning about human behaviors and how to like leverage our like habits and I guess human patterns to make meaningful change.
Right.
And which you'll see later in my project about how to solve conflict among roommates. Okay, yeah. So outside of design, I still like to draw a lot. I do a lot of sketching in my free time. I'm really, really into cooking and baking. It's honestly like what keeps me sane. Like I have like a spreadsheet like just for meal planning. Like that's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my jam. And outside of that, I also try to run. It's pretty like stress relieving for me. But
You gotta stay active.
Yeah, I gotta stay active. But it's been like raining a lot lately, so I haven't really had the chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's essentially me. That's like a little map of who I am.
And you can, so Tim has actually shared your Behance project, so if you get a chance, go ahead and hop in and see your work on either Behance or on your actual portfolio site. And just as a reminder, if you have created any designs for the challenge, go ahead and share them in the channel. That way you can get your designs looked at by Jess and I later on when we look at your creative endeavors. Working with, today the feature was creating a countdown for Christmas on an Apple Watch. And we might see submissions from yesterday's challenge, which was creating maps to find Santa on a Santa tracker. So
Very fitting.
that's going to be really, really cool.
'Tis the season.
So we'll find some more of that stuff later. But if you have designs that you're working on, go ahead and send them in. It's always good to have like work in progress
Definitely.
if you want to get it looked at versus like not getting your work looked at. So there you go.
Cool.
Can't wait to learn more about this this new thing that you're designing.
Yes. Okay, so let me get into the agenda that we'll be covering over the next 2 days. So today we're gonna be talking about like a brief overview of the project I'm gonna be showing. It's kind of like already in the works, like I've done like a web prototype of it, so I'm gonna kind of be going over how I came up with the solution, like the research, the insights I found, as well as what the platform currently looks like. And then after that, we're gonna be going into the mobile prototype, which I am finishing up the wireframes for. So we're gonna be doing some of that. And if we have time, we'll start putting in mobile components and making things look pretty. So day 2, I'll just go over and recap what we did on day 1. Here we'll be applying the design system to the mobile application, create a style guide based off that, and then finally do some fun prototyping and string everything together.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. So let me go back to here. So essentially what my supply service is it's called Bare Necessities. It's a household subscription service. It's designed for people who share spaces such as like a roommate, a spouse, or like if you're living together, you qualify for this.
Right.
Essentially, you choose a plan according to your needs. You're able to split the cost of this plan between all the roommates, and then you'll get shipped a custom refill box at the certain point of the month that you so desire. So it's like you never really run out of what you need, hence the name Bare Necessities. Yeah. I think it's kind of funny because no one tells you when you study UX like how many fake company names you're gonna have to come up with.
I know.
But like that's honestly a skill.
The better you are with puns.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, I'm gonna have fun with this. Yeah. So basically how I came up with this service is the problem I tried to tackle is how people often share living spaces with people such as your roommates, like guests or a spouse. And especially like me living in Oakland, like it's really hard as a college student to have your own space. So you're gonna run into this problem. Yeah. So sharing a space with someone's obviously like, it's a great thing. You really build a relationship, but you can also have points of conflict because if you're constantly living together, you can add stress to the living situation. So I started out by doing 5 interviews with people who shared spaces, and I asked them stuff like, what does home mean to you? What do you associate with your home? And like, when does home no longer feel like home to you? And what I found from this is the biggest point is that home doesn't feel like home when there are conflicts or disagreements. And this can range from things like roommates not talking to each other, you having a conflict with a housemate, or even like parents fighting. So like once there's this sense of like, it's like bad blood, it really doesn't feel like home anymore.
Right.
And these conflicts are generally caused by a lot of like living habit things such as being messy, like lack of respect for personal spaces, when you're sharing things, delay in rent, lifestyle, visitor, etc. So there's a lot of things that really add to this conflict. So I wanted to explore ways of preventing and resolving conflicts in living situations that are civil and beneficial to all the residents involved. So I did a huge brainstorming dump. Honestly, another really fun thing I love about UX is just you can go crazy and like spew all your ideas out, and they're valid. So I did a huge idea dump, and I found within these ideas they were really broken down into 2 sets. So it was preventative versus reactive. So preventative means before the argument even starts, like just like stopping it from happening. So like you kind of solve the conflict because there's no conflict. And there's also reactive, which means you react to a conflict that's already occurred. And when I was like going over my designs, I found that when you're doing like a reactive design, when you're solving conflicts among people, it's a very like personal thing. It's very situational, and it's very like emotional as well. So for me, it didn't really seem appropriate to be designing like how to solve a conflict, because I think that should be left up to the person. So I really focused more on the preventative side. And I did some competitive landscaping, and I looked into like existing solutions that solve these roommate conflicts. The one I personally focused on was like menial tasks, I can say, like doing chores or like buying supplies. And there already exists a lot of these like physical solutions, such as like physical chore charts that you like tack on your fridge, as well as passive aggressive post-it notes, which I find like really funny. It's like, okay, for today's Wi-Fi password, you must do XYZ before you can get it.
Yeah.
And I interviewed a lot of people about this as well, and they said for the chore charts, for example, if no one uses it, then it's essentially useless.
Right.
And then for the post-it notes, it's more like, it really doesn't solve anything. It just makes the problem worse because you're not communicating.
Right. Those like manual, like those are hard to maintain.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
You kind of get on a streak where you're doing it and you're filling it out, but then you kind of fall off, and then everything falls off.
Definitely.
And so you're getting some love on your sketches.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Zombie Army.
And the idea being just like a really great idea to mediate some of these problems before they become problems, right?
Right. So moving on, I also did some competitive landscaping on the technology side. So there exists things like Venmo, as we all use, Home Slice, which is, I believe, an app that allows you to keep track of shared things, as well as our groceries, which keeps track of the food in your fridge. And what I found in these as well is a lot of these solutions kind of did not work unless you had active user input. Like Venmo is just an app unless you use it, same as Home Slice. Unless you like populate it with information, it essentially does not work. And what I wanted to do was create a service that still functioned without active user input, but still allowed customization and personalization.
Okay.
Yeah. And then this was my very first sketch of bare necessities. It's kind of funny, like when you do sketches, sometimes you can just capture like your entire project in one. So this was like my very first iteration of it, and I'll run through this flow as I'm talking about the web prototype. And then I also did some user stories. So I'm personally like a huge fan of user stories because it like shows how your app is supposed to function, but also how it's being used. I think how it's being used really informs how you should shape these interactions, including like what functions you built in and what platforms it manifests itself on.
Yeah.
So this essentially follows the story of Jane, who is a college student living in San Francisco. She shares an apartment with 3 people, and she's frustrated because her roommates never change or replace the supplies they share. So she calls a friend and she like vents to her about her problems, and her friend recommends her Bare Necessities, which is an app that's really helped solve her roommate conflicts. And she goes online, and then she's pleased to check and find that they sell household supplies. And then she shows the service to her roommates and decide what to order together. They go through a quick survey that recommends a plan for them. They choose to have their refills sent once a month, and in no time the supplies show up at Jane's apartment, and thanks to Bare Necessities, the supplies are always there when the roommates need them. And I'm blocking the text, but she never has to complain about not having supplies again. Yeah. And to your question, Zombie Army, they are based on real interviews from people, but these user stories are kind of like an amalgamation of the information I've learned from my interviews.
Yeah, so you're using the story arc, or this like how to like tell storytelling to shape what you found through research, right?
Yeah. So these are like real conflicts that people are facing, and I'm just like weaving them together into an overarching story. Yeah. Okay, so time to get into the web prototype. So essentially, this is the homepage. This is where you land on if you click on barenecessities.com or whatever URL would be. This is like the landing page. You get a brief overview of how it works. And then you have startup boxes in 4 main categories. So you have cleaning, kitchen, bathroom, and laundry. So these are kind of like pre-made sets for you, so you don't have to browse too much yourself. And then to really get onboarded in, you can go through a brief survey. So it says, get started, we'll customize a plan for you. You first choose where you live, so house, apartment, or co-op, and can continue, and you can choose how many people live there. So this really helps the program estimate how much supplies are needed. And then you can choose which categories you want supplies in. So here we want it in 3 categories. And then you can choose what your budget is. So we're cheap college students, so we'll go 40 a month. Yeah. And how frequently you want shipments as well. Yeah. So based off all that, it's going to recommend you a plan. So it knows you need cleaning, kitchen, and bathroom. So it'll recommend you supplies that fit those categories. And then over here on this side, you can also choose to add in more add-ons. But this is kind of like your default items on the left. Yeah.
And those are going to come whatever you determine as your monthly cycle.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And then before each box gets shipped, you can like reconfirm like I want these, or you can add more.
Right.
Yeah. So you can continue on your plan, and then this is pretty much like your plan for the, I guess, following months that you choose to subscribe, and then this is the one that ships today, as well as the box that's shipping in the future.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you can check out, and this is just pretty much a standard like creating an account, entering your shipping address. And then one thing I do want to highlight here, which is another feature that I really wanted to add in, was being able to split your order as a group payment. So this like pretty much takes out having to charge each person separately. So here you have everyone in your apartment. You can choose to like add a new member, like using either if they have an existing account or a phone number that will give them a sign up page. And then here you can see like the price has changed. So everyone pays this amount.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, so because I don't want anyone to get like charged without them really knowing about it, once you place the order, each roommate will get a confirmation email, and then they'll be asked to confirm this order. And once everyone confirms, then the order is actually placed.
Nice.
Yeah. And I also did a fun exploration, and I wanted to like see what the products would look like. I would probably do a little bit more branding, a little bit more information, but this is kind of what it would look like.
Yeah. And do you feel that your illustration background also prepares you for this kind of stuff?
Most definitely. I think a lot of like skills I've learned in illustration really translate over to interaction design, not even just visual design, but even like storytelling.
Right. It's like being able to like contextualize like something, like a situation with a picture.
Exactly.
And that like a lot of times that's hard to do, and that's why like the Noun Project is such a great place.
I love the Noun Project.
But like I even love this idea of reminding you that your brand is there when you're empty on toilet paper, because it's just like a subtle reminder to like, oh yeah, I need toilet paper.
Yeah.
But to keep your brand top of mind.
Definitely.
So that's really great.
Yeah.
And you're getting a lot of love on your web design and your branding.
I appreciate it a lot.
And I think it looks beautiful too.
Thank you. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to explore with the supplies is actually like, I kind of framed it as like passive-aggressive supplies, because like going back to the notion of like passive-aggressive post-it notes, what if you can like make the supplies do the talking for you? So that's why I kind of did like the don't leave me bare. So like people know how to do, like the supplies are talking, like please change me. So you don't like get into conflicts.
Yeah.
So that's a further exploration.
I also like this don't leave me bare, but if you were to put a comma after me, I don't know, just it completely changes the whole sentence, but at the same time, like they both make sense.
Exactly.
I love the puns though.
Oh, thank you. All right.
And just as a reminder, we have 11 minutes till our chat and win. So at that time, kind of prompt you with some sort of question, and then you just kind of get in the chat. So if you're not logged into the chat, urge you to log in now so you don't have to do it during that time. But in 10 minutes, we'll be giving you a nice prize.
Yes. All right. So let's get into some designing. So I just went over the web experience. So what we're going to be focusing on today mostly is the mobile side of it. So I can show a task flow I have real quick. And as you guys saw in the web prototype, it pretty much encompasses this top section, which is like the onboarding. And for attention's sake, or for keeping people's attention, I'm not going to go make that again. And what I want to focus on more is the product side of things. So I've already built out like a rough wireframe section of how like your personal profile would look on the mobile app, as well as what your orders are, and then the social aspect. So I want to focus on this part today.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah. This would be how the profile looks.
Sweet.
And then there's the groups and orders. And I'll show these all later when I link everything together, but that's essentially how it is.
Okay.
So what we want to focus on today is, I think roughly around like 6 or 8 screens, depending on how many like micro interactions are really built in.
Yeah.
So what I want to really design is the browsing experience. So first, on the first page, you're gonna need things such as search. So you need like a manual search as well as like category filtering. And I kind of want to follow the 4 categories I had in the web prototype, which are cleaning, bathroom, kitchen, and laundry, to just keep like the design and the experience consistent among platforms. And then you can filter it by price, size, and I was thinking maybe like eco-friendliness. Like, tell me in the chat if you guys think this is important. and if you want to like filter your products by something that's good for the environment.
Right.
And then just within the layout of it, I want to filter it by like boxes, best-selling, recommended, what type it is, and again, if eco-friendly is desirable.
And we had a conversation on the last show we were on with Ann Wang, where we were talking about flowcharts and what do you use to design your flowcharts to help you, like just as a meta conversation of like how you design your flowcharts.
So I do a lot of different ways. Like if I'm just doing it for my personal sake, I just use a Sharpie and I go on paper.
Okay.
And it's like super, super messy. Like only I understand it, but if it's only for me, that's how I usually do.
Or like a whiteboard if you have one.
Yeah, exactly, whiteboard. I love whiteboards. Like I whiteboard everything.
Yeah.
That's how I am.
Do you have one in your room?
I do have one in my apartment, yeah. So
that's the preferred way.
That's
but then
the
translating them to an audience.
So I usually use just like any design program. Like I've used Illustrator and XD for flowcharts. There's also one, I believe it's like someone by Google.
Yeah, flow.io.
Yeah, flow.io, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah. So flow.io is one that like is very popular to share to teams too.
Yes.
Just a little side question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. And I think some people use Mural as well.
Mural.
Yeah, because that one's you can share across teams, so it's really helpful. Yeah. Okay, so after you select a product, I want to build out like the product screen. So this would be the product detail, the name, like the size, cost. I want to do scent because I just think that's kind of fun. Description, and then products like this. And then what the user will do is choose the quantity, scent, and it'll add it to their box. And then in the cart, because it's like a shared box, you have to choose if it's like a one-time order versus like an add to plan.
Gotcha.
And then if this item is something that all individuals want or just one of the roommates want. And then if it is for one individual, we have to tag it as that person's. And then there'll be a confirmation, notification, as well as just like you're done. So that's kind of like what I want to go through today.
Sweet.
Yeah. So shall we get started?
Yeah, go ahead and start.
All right. Let's see.
I can't wait.
Let's move that over. Okay. So if we are in the home page, let me grab my existing menu bar and add it to the bottom. What I really like about XD actually is like you can have these like default states on your components, which I think are super, super helpful. So like I already have all of these states and I can just switch it to products. So you know you're on the products page, and like it saves you so much time, honestly. So let's see. So our first thing, let's put a manual search bar on. If I remember correctly, this is,
Yeah, I think the eco is very important to the audience.
Yes.
There is the idea of like possibly from the outset making your brand only eco.
Yeah.
Which is, I think what was going through my mind is like as far as options and as a kind of instead of eco, maybe it's like 2-ply toilet paper or quality of toilet paper.
Right.
I think sometimes like the barest of essential toilet paper can be kind of like, scratchy.
Yeah, no, I
but
agree.
like, I think there could be some like ways to like think about that.
Definitely.
But as far as like going, like choosing from your eco products versus your non-eco products, maybe your branding of like being bare essentials also applies to the ingredients.
Right.
So like the ingredients of your product are eco from the outset.
Definitely.
Could be like just a selling point for your brand.
Yeah.
And your logo is getting a lot of love too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. So
Yeah, in 5 minutes we're gonna have the chat and win. So if you aren't logged in, go ahead and log into your Behance so you can jump into the comment section and chat away when we have that countdown. Yes.
Okay. So here I'm just gonna build like the high-level categories. It'd just be, as I mentioned earlier, cleaning, bathroom, kitchen, and laundry. So that's that. So we have that done on top. And let's see. So we're gonna need some sort of filtering system. So it would be by price. Do you guys think size is an important factor? Like, would you want to choose like this if your hand soap is like that tall or like that tall?
The dimensions of the product?
Or just like how much it holds?
Oh,
like
yeah. I think that, what does everyone in the chat think as far as like buying products by like the size of the product, like how many fluid ounces are in it? Is that something that's important?
Or would that be better done like when you're selecting it in a product?
It's a good question.
Food for thought.
And then, yeah, so the eco, maybe you don't need to add that. Maybe that's something that your brand is already eco.
Exactly.
You know, that could be something.
Interesting to explore. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna try
Definitely the price though, right?
Definitely the price, yeah. So we can do a little like pill setup right here. Let's just do. Let's see if I want price like this, or no. Let's do this. Good idea. How about you? Do you have like a go-to like soap or
Oh yeah,
brand? What's your thing?
for me, my go-to, it's been like this Target brands. That are kind of,
interesting.
like so, I was like for a while using their generic brand, and I'm with you, like just using the bare minimum. It's great to get it at an eco level,
Right.
but usually I just get what smells good.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That makes sense. Yeah.
and sometimes like the bottle is a selling point, like how aesthetically pleasing is your soap,
Oh, definitely.
you know,
Definitely.
without having to put it in like its own container.
Yes,
I-
for
'cause
real.
Although that is like more eco, like if you could just like sell refillable bags and like give them like a glass kind of permanent one that they fill up,
Let's do this. Yeah.
that could be kind of cool. But for me, yeah, I usually go for like the cheap brand, just to like reduce cost, you know. And the
Right.
same way for like, you know, even though like my housemate, we kind of split the cost in like a different way. But yeah, it would be great to just have this even for us, even though we're not relying on like some questionable party.
Right.
That it's just like a better way to keep track. Like one thing that I've been doing in as far as like the service industry that's like giving me products is Dollar Shave Club.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not sure who's heard of it. It's something that like as far as a design system, like a design system, like a service, it actually is very helpful for me because I don't really shave too much, but when I do, I need to have a razor, and the company just sends you razors, and like you don't have to think about it.
That's awesome.
And you can set your preferences very similar to the way you're suggesting of like bi-monthly or just like reducing the amount for a certain month. Like, oh, I'm gonna be out of
Right.
town for 2 weeks or a month. Like
Right.
maybe I don't need that much toilet paper or that much soap. So being able to like adapt is I think really important. So like if anybody out there is like in that situation where they feel like kind of, you know, tired to just go to the store all the time, like we have all these connected services. Like what type of service do you use that's like this? Would be some good
Oh, yes.
information
definitely.
for your research.
Definitely.
Yeah, and as far as questions on like XD and like courses, there's tons of do-it-yourself ways to learn. This platform is one. Every designer that we speak to always has like a refreshing way to talk about process. But there's also like great literature out there that you can find. I have a document that I'll have to post later on that has a lot of like good reading materials. I have that in some past Discord channel, and I'll bring up the link for it later.
Yeah.
But essentially, like you don't necessarily need to go to college to learn UX.
Oh, definitely not.
Because the way that the industry is now, you can get a job at a company as a UX designer without college experience. So we are at the chat and win time right now, and for my question for you is, what bare necessity in life do you find important? Like what is it? It could be, it doesn't have to be any of these products,
Right.
but any necessity that you find important in your daily life. Like for me, I would say it is clean pair of socks.
Ooh,
Have to. I have
that's a good
tons,
one.
way too many socks because I always need to wear new socks. I probably change socks like twice a day,
Huh.
which is maybe not normal.
That's
I'd love to know what you guys think.
a lot of laundry, dude. That's a lot of laundry.
Thanks for joining us back. It was a short little break. I'm seeing all kinds of really cool things in this chat right now. So we have the Adobe live streams. That's one. That's thank you. Pizza, chapstick, lotion. I mean, water is definitely like
it's like the barest of necessities.
Barest.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why we're on this planet, actually. Right?
For real.
Tiny pocket knife with scissors, toothpick, and tweezers.
Very specific.
It's like multi.
Yeah, exactly.
There's dimensions to that choice.
It's like a Swiss Army knife. It's like really cool.
Right. So like Eric Su is another prime example of someone who didn't study web design, and that is kind of like how the jobs and roles have kind of changed, right? Like web designer used to be a UX designer, right? It's all changing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Water is definitely creeping up there.
Wi-Fi.
I don't know why vape juice is there. Tea is definitely like, I don't drink as much tea. I'm the kind of person that always fills up a cup of tea and puts a bag in it, but never drinks it.
Interesting. I have like that weird pet peeve where I have to have like, if it's a hot liquid, it has to be scalding.
Yeah.
So once like the tea gets like a little bit lukewarm, I'm just like, nah.
And congratulations to Chanel Anderson or Channel Anderson? I think it's Chanel Anderson.
I think it's
Chanel Anderson, you won. And what do you win? I didn't even say. You win 100 stickers from Sticker Mule, and that could be redeemed. You're gonna get a message and you'll be able to get that coupon so you can use that at Sticker Mule. And for those that did not win, you can get 10 stickers for $1. And all you gotta do is go to stickermule.com/Adobe Live, which is a great deal. And we actually need that deal because we don't have any stickers.
Yeah, we're like, it's real bare.
Go pushing that button even further. Congratulations, Chanel.
Yes, congratulations. We're back.
We are back though. Let's do this.
All right, where was I? Let's see. Yeah, so another thing I want to do within the product page is really break up the UI by what type of product it is, because there's this thing I learned, it's called like, I believe, surfing fatigue, when you're like scrolling through a newsfeed and like everything's the same size, or if like you're like Netflix or Hulu, for example, and you're scrolling through your recommended and it's like all the same size and you're just like zoning out, right?
Yeah.
So if you break up your product page, it helps capture people's attentions, and it also kind of develops like a mental model for them.
Right.
So if you look at like a rectangle, you know, oh, this is like a box, and if you look at a square, you know it's a single product.
Right.
So it's kind of like building a mental model and also not allowing people to get too tired during the browsing. Yeah.
That's nice. So like, is that a behavior that's like kind of more like a nuanced behavior that's popped out of like the way people navigate the web? And is that at Hulu? Is something that you learned?
Yes, that is because I worked a lot on the home browsing experience, and that's like a lot of thumbnails.
Yeah.
And then we did a lot of like investigating on if people could find content as well as if people got tired.
Right.
Like, that's something that popped up.
That's really cool.
Interesting, yeah.
So that's another little tidbit for you to know is this idea of browsing fatigue. And I feel like we kind of get into that without really knowing it with like our Instagram feeds. Everything is pretty monotonous and the same. And you know, you kind of get kind of tired, right?
Hope this logic doesn't apply to dating apps.
Yeah, maybe it should. I don't know. But yeah, I think the new behaviors that we have developed are still kind of being understood, and that's why the UX design is such I feel like an open field to anybody. If you are the type of person interested in like human factors and the way that we behave, these are just ways to understand those to make things more compelling for your user.
Exactly.
So I love the idea of you know the sizing of your thumbnails to form a mental model, because then you do like we look for patterns automatically as people, and that is just a way for us to like simply digest like this is a box and with multiple things, and we don't even necessarily need you to teach us that, and that's like I think great UX teaches without preaching. Like you're like really you don't need like a learn more. It's kind of just teaching you, and that's like I think a successful UX design. And that's my opinion. I don't know if that's like written. It's probably written down somewhere. I don't have the reference for that, but in a sense, like you're able to then just easily teach people as they browse, which is really really great.
I think it's something Spotify actually does really well, because like believe like if you go into it, it's like playlists are circle.
Yeah.
And then no, artists are circle, playlists are rectangle, and then tracks are square.
That's
like,
right.
That's a really good mental model to have, I think.
And I think Spotify is like definitely like a good example of like, as far as people might debate like the if it's good UX design or if like maybe the Apple Music is better, a better like pattern. But whatever you think, they're both using research to drive their decisions on how they present their albums and their work to separate content. That's just one way to separate them. But yeah, I really think browsing fatigue is definitely like a very, very good idea to like build around.
Definitely.
And so we have the first of the pages already kind of fleshed out. Great.
Yeah. It's pretty standard. It's just like we have boxes on top, which is like the I guess it's like a collection of supplies, and then best-selling, recommended. And I was gonna do like a fun promo content because it's like around Christmas, like maybe buy like toilet paper for your loved ones. I don't know, like some sort of deal, and then just like the 4 categories down here. Oh, I should probably add in the eco thing because that is important.
There you go.
Yeah. See, that's why you talk through your work, because when you talk through your work, you find out what's wrong with it.
Right. And now with co-editing too, you can design as your partner is looking in.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I'm able to see all the changes you're making on your document.
Okay, let's put that underneath here.
Yeah, I'm thinking for that promo content, that could be something really cool to play with.
Yeah.
Just leaving that space to occupy it and to break up the monotony again.
All right, we'll go back and fix that in a bit.
Yeah, and then that's another thing about XD that's been really helpful is like understand like the way that the system understands spacing is just like a super time saver.
Oh, it's amazing.
Right? To like let you know where your spacing lies. It's just such an easy thing to kind of not even pay attention to.
Definitely. There we go. Okay. Yeah.
And if you're just joining us, Bohana, thanks for joining us. Hello. We are here with Jessica Yang, and she's giving us a breakdown on what it looks like to design a experience for a product service that replenishes your bare necessities of toiletries, essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Was toothpaste ever on there as a option, or that's more of a personal expense, right?
I mean, I've heard that some roommates do share toothpaste, like they get the bulk Costco packs.
Right.
I believe. I think it's like a personal roommate.
Right. I feel like that's like going into the oral hygiene is a very personal thing.
Each person has their own like teeth, you know, own preferences.
Yeah, so and if you are just joining us, well, we are also doing the design feedback countdown, or the design feedback in about 50 minutes. And if you have any designs that you've been working on for the Creative Challenge, the current Creative Challenge that we are doing now is there's the one today, which was the countdown, which allows you to create an experience on a on a watch. That kind of gives you a ticker for when Christmas arrives, or any other countdown that you're interested in culturally experiencing. And then we have maps from yesterday that we would love to see designs from, where we can track Santa.
That's
so using maps is something that I love to use whenever I have a map situation. You can use plugins for that. So if you haven't submitted anything, please do so, and we can check out your work on screen live here with Jessica, and kind of give you some feedback if you'd want to get some feedback. So that would be a really good opportunity. And also, just as a side note for people that are looking to get into the UX field that maybe haven't committed to going to a school, you can just do a lot of these creative challenges, and they're not trivial as far as like what you can learn from them, but by actually going through the process that the moderator or host gives you. I know for one that I've seen some really, really great work come out of it, and from what I've gathered, people have actually gotten projects put on their portfolio that they've expanded on, and gotten jobs based on their work from Creative Challenges. And by being able to submit your work here is just a really, really great opportunity for you to get seen. Sparsh, what's up, man? Sparsh and I go way back.
Oh, hello.
So yeah, just as a way for you to challenge yourself and also get some portfolio inspiration, you can totally take advantage of these creative challenges. Just really good prompts for you to flex your skills, and also just like learn how to use the tool. Because XD is free for you to use, free to share as well. So if you want to share links, share prototypes, and get feedback, you can do that with a free license. So just to know that we're also trying to support the way you get user feedback and the way you're able to test your prototypes, because that's really important too. Making prototypes isn't just a way for you to like make your own stuff look flashy. It's actually just a way to also get feedback from people on your product that you're designing.
Yeah.
So when you do like prototypes, like is it like usually like live links that you send people, or like in a controlled setting? And what do you prefer?
I generally prefer controlled settings.
Yeah.
So because when you're building out a prototype, it's really hard to account for like every single user state that's going to happen. So what I like doing is I just like sit down with someone, I hand them the app, and I kind of give them like a task flow to go through.
Yeah.
It's like pretend you're sitting with your roommates. You guys want cleaning supplies, and I'm going to see like if they're able to complete that task within the app.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you kind of measure the way that they're behaving with your prototype
exactly.
and taking notes and stuff. That's great. So like being able to like conduct a user experience, like is a testing experience, is like another specialized skill that you can gain.
Definitely.
And for like those types of learnings, there's a lot of frameworks that you can find on out there, and the resources are plenty. You can just do some searching. Anything. What's the Rose? Is it Rosenfield? I can't remember. I'll remember some. I'll remember some good references for you, and I'll actually search for like a little doc I prepared that gives you some like books and literature to help you navigate all that stuff. Because there's almost too many books.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right, and you can if you can afford it to go to like a boot camp to learn UX design, but a lot of times that is also kind of time consuming and like it's hard for you to kind of just throw yourself into like a UX maintain like another job, right? Like it's hard to do. So being able to read independently of that is great.
I agree.
So I'll show you another plugin later we can use for some help with some like more MIPSM stuff.
I always just Google the same link, same paragraph.
I know. So someone did figure that out and created a tool for it.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I'll demo it for you.
Ooh. Excited for that.
But yeah, references. Let me pull up my reference doc because I do have one for you.
Yes.
So let me Google Doc it. Ooh. And so we're on the products page now, right?
Yes.
Okay,
you're
cool.
on the products page.
So now after when we have, what's great about being able to like use plugins while we're designing is I'm gonna help Jessica like get this set up so on day 2 we can add in some more contextual like spreadsheet data. So being able to like push data into your design without having to like actually type it on every single screen.
Definitely.
So we're going to be able to do that together.
Yes,
That'd be really great.
For that. And if you guys have like favorite products or favorite scents, like let us know and we'll add them in. Because right now it's all blank. It's all for you guys.
And there is a question from Bohana about advice on how to prepare for a UX interview. We'll save that question for a little later. We're going to get some work done, and I'm going to bring up a sheet. But yeah, I have some thoughts on that.
Oh, me too. I have many thoughts.
So we'll get into that. We don't want to take too much of everyone's time on it. But it is a great question because preparing for a UX interview is...
That's a whole nother beast, honestly.
It is, and it depends on the role that you're being interviewed for. There is, you have to kind of know, like, first off, like, look at your interview sheet when you get a sheet, and like, look at who's going to be on your interview.
LinkedIn stalk them.
Yeah, and I think it's really great to like anytime you present your work, know your audience, and because you're gonna be able to like learn how to present to them. Because if you're in a room full of visual designers. So one time I went on an interview for a UX design role. Okay. And the only people in the room were were visual designers with a brand team.
Oh no.
Yeah, and it was not the best fit initially, but then I learned that like, okay, there's no UX designers. So that means the work that they're going to be looking at is a lot more visual. and so like it made that transition for me a little easier.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So knowing your audience, I feel, is like the best like first step you can go. And so I'm actually sharing a.
Yeah, I always try to research the company I'm going to as well, because if like a company's more platform based, like I'll show more of my web prototypes or mobile prototypes, but if they're more like experimental, like for example, when I was interviewing for Punch Cut, they're more of a like designing for the future sort of company, so I included more of like wearables as well as like voice design, because you kind of have to gear what you're presenting towards who's ultimately viewing it. But yeah, I have a lot to say about design interviews.
Okay, so if anybody has access to the Discord, to our Discord channel, if you go into the Ask Me Anything, I have posted a link to a really, for me, like these are like what I find are some like really great UX literature that you can, I think, learn like the basics, if not just be a master. Like if you were to actually like master these books, there's some really great stuff. So head on over to our Discord channel, and you can see that in the Ask Me Anything channel. Within there is just a list of mine on a UX, on just a Google Doc, so you can take a look at those. So if you are familiar, one of them's About Face by Alan Cooper. Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. That was for me like one of the first books I read that made me understand how important it is to not make your users think, and that I feel like that has gotten abused to an extent with design, right? Because like turning people into like kind of zombie robots while they're using your product isn't always the best.
Nope.
If your product is trying to exploit their like attention.
Right.
But regardless, it was something that people were trying to solve. Evil by Design is another one by Chris Notter. Just a really great read on just some of the dark patterns that can exist in design, and how to kind of be aware of them, so not lead people to them directly. So yeah, but I feel like some of the things that we should be reading and retouching up on, and like, are some of the basics, like information architecture.
Oh, that's so important.
And like being able to really understand the structure of what you're designing. There's something for me that's personal. Like I'm in this space personally with accessibility, and just to kind of highlight the idea of your H1s, H2, H3s, your headings for your text. They're not decorative design elements, like they are for navigation and structure. So just kind of keep that in mind too. The most commonly skipped H is the 3. We like if you kind of there was a tool that actually crawled all of the top 1 million visited homepages in the United States, and H3 is like the most left out of the heading classes.
Wow.
Because it's like we know what H1 is, like the biggest, boldest, and you have like the 2, and then like people skip the 3 and go to 4.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so just thinking about from an accessibility standpoint, never skipping the H's, like make sure they're all spoken for. Just like a little tidbit.
Huh, that's great.
And so like, yeah, books are great. I do agree that you can't only learn how to be a designer by reading books. The way you got to do it is apply that to designing something, and like really asking difficult questions on like what is out there that is broken. Like what can you do whether it's socially, whether it's looking at a concept that is maybe close to getting it right but not quite. Just finding different ways of looking at the world. Yeah. And no, I didn't put design of everyday things because I feel like that is something that
Don Norman.
everyone already knows. Like I probably should add it just for the sake of it. But I do feel like most people know about that one. Designing of everyday things is like just one of the most like prolific
referenced one as well. Yeah, the doors.
Right. Yeah, and I do really like it because it is, for a designer that designs on screen, a little abstract, because like they're physical objects.
Yeah. Right.
So finding like how to use a physical object, there's a lot of metaphors in our digital products, right? Like that button, right? It's it's a reference to buttons that we have on elevators, right? Like they're call to actions. And I think that like that book alone like gives us like, oh, I can understand these screens now because all these affordances are taken from the natural world of objects.
Definitely.
So can you give us a breakdown on what you
Oh,
got here?
sorry, I just been going.
Yeah, no.
So what I have on the product screen, so I'm going to have a product image up here, product name, product size, as well as the cost. And then here, I thought it'd be kind of fun to have like a little pill feature where you could select which scent you want. And someone in the chat said they really like lily flower, so I'm going to include that. And then there's going to be a description as well as I'm trying to still figure out how I should really handle this part because I want people to select their quantity as well as add it to their box, aka cart. And it could either be like if you like click this, it'll like have a pop-up and you like scroll through the numbers or like the amount you want, or it could just be embedded in here after you add it to your box. And I could just add like a select quantity up here. But then that like takes out the scrolling affordance. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, do you think
Let
it
us
should
know.
be on the front screen with the product, or on the second screen when you're kind of defining more details, right?
So essentially there used to be like 2 separate pop-ups, and I kind of want to, I don't know if that's the best way to approach it, but it'd be, for example, if you do select quantity, it would do essentially like that, and then it'd be like, oh, it's not centered. Ooh. Let's make that like 18. And then like 2, 3, etc. Very roughly. Oh, I just skipped 2. Huh. Something like that. And yeah, I found the best way to really like get feedback on ideas is just make a really rough version of it.
Yeah.
Like would that be better, or would something up there and like select like maybe a number? Add to box. Yeah, I was thinking about that, but also I think for mobile affordances, like the plus and minus button can be really small. So
They can.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's something I could play around with.
I like the scroll.
You like the scroll? I think it's just more friendly.
I do like the scroll. It's friendly.
Yeah, Brendan says they should be able to select quantity before adding to cart. Okay, then I think I'll explore that idea for now, but we can come back to that. So
yeah, and you could, because you still need to be able to edit that
Exactly.
after the fact. So how do you do that too?
So I guess that would.
And I have a request for scent.
Okay.
Lavender.
Ooh, okay.
That's just my personal favorite.
Nice. Interesting. I have a very like love-hate relationship with lavender. Like I like it as a scent, but not in food because it feels like I'm eating soap.
That's because you made the connection to the. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean, I guess I don't really use lavender in anything else that other than like my soaps. Like I never put it in like a tea.
Right.
But you can, right?
Yeah.
Lavender tea.
I know it's like very soothing. That's what it's supposed to do.
It's very calming.
Yeah.
And we could totally prototype this on a real device.
I think the best bet would just be like building out both of those interactions
Yeah,
and just like
and seeing
how it work. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's like probably the best solution for all your designs.
User test everything.
Yeah, and just make multiple versions of what it is that you think.
Right.
Because you never know. Like it could be good for you, but maybe the next person will be like, oh. But sometimes you still got to make a decision.
Yes.
I mean, all the time you still got to make a decision.
But they're informed decisions.
They are. That's true.
Yeah.
They're measured.
So the last screen I was making here would be like after you added. Actually, when you click add it to box, it would pop up like this, and it would ask you to select frequency. So it could be a one-time order, or you would add it to your plan, and then you can also choose to like tag which roommate/roommates on it, and this would be like exclusively for them.
Oh, cool.
And it would be billed to them.
Like that. Nice.
Yeah. And then this would all be generated because you have like a group already. Yeah. Okay, where am I at? Let's see. Revised plan, confirmation notification. Okay. And I think the best way to like approach notification would just be a little bit like a little drop-down notification that just pops up there, talking about how this item has been added to your cart.
Oh yeah, like a little badge.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, actually, before I do that, just to make this interaction a little bit more clear, I'm gonna go in and darken it. Yeah, so that would fade on the back. Yeah. be, I guess, a little X over there, but.
And we got a final scent.
Yeah. Ooh, we got a final scent. Ooh, I like jasmine a lot. Okay.
Thank you, Beck.
Yes.
And just so everybody has a little bit of notice, in 34 minutes we're going to be doing a design feedback with Jessica, and we're going to review whatever the latest work has been submitted to the Discord channel for the design challenge.
Yes.
And if you haven't finished, there's still time. Go ahead and get those finalized and post them to the current challenge channel in our Discord. And you can access that by the top of your chat. There's a challenge. There's a challenge tab, and you just click that, and you can get into it. So just to kind of give you some time too, 30 minutes until we get to that point.
I'm excited.
And we are already like 4 screens in, or some screens and some notifications in. So it's going to be really cool to see this kind of like wired up.
Yeah, so you can choose to exit out of that. Yeah, so back to the notification. Oh, and I guess we need to find photos for that. If you have like a favorite hand soap. Like ideally it would just be like all like Bear branded, but for the sake of this prototype, maybe we could put something.
Some other soaps?
Yeah, some other soaps. What's this called?
And have you been having fun, been able to use the newest version of the Adobe XD states, component states?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with those actually. I really like how it's like all contained.
Yeah.
Because it's like one component but just different states, so it's super cool.
And so one of the features too that Jessica was open to sharing is the co-editing. So if we hop over to my screen, I actually have her design that she created on her web prototype, which is really cool because I can while you're doing that, I can share some of this stuff and to like show some ideas on how to get some of this stuff wired up for a prototype using some more of these current states. So this one currently has, it's been prototyped to get to the next screen. But like, what if we can put in some like snazzy little hover states, right? So like getting this, and to make these hover states, you do need to create a component out of them first, and then you just add a state, and we can say hover. And then I think a simple one for this one's fine, and we just like change maybe the color, make it a little darker, something like that. And then we just go back to it and go to default, and then we can see that pretty quickly when we hover. So we got a hover state done. And then we're also going to be looking at like maybe like this animated or something. You get some line at like animated products. And what's up, Colby? Colby's in the chat. Colby's a friend of Live. He hosted before.
Oh, hello.
Using co-editing, man, it's been a super helpful game changer.
Yes.
So if I want to do something like this for like a hover state for like links, I can do something like that. Let's see if I get the pen tool. Just do a simple line. Simple line. Like that. Like that. Like 3. Right. Yeah, like 3-inch border, and then let's say it's going to be the same blue that you're using. For
It should be saved in one of them, but I have a lot of swatches.
Do you have you been tried, like, I'm not always as organized, but like adding your colors to your panel, to your assets panel?
Oh, I have not done that. I usually just save it with
these ones, right? There's 2 places you can do it now. So it's like, I think both are useful. I've been trying to like make my time most productive.
Efficient, yeah. I feel like that's one of my New Year's resolutions, to get more like organized when I'm designing.
Yeah, like
I get really like lost, and I'm like, I'm just gonna slap this component
like
here.
creating your design system as you're designing is kind of like the goal, right? But it's really, really hard to do that. I feel you on that. All right, so if I have this little thing, and what I'm gonna do is select, make this a component, and so the default state is that, and then what I could say is I'm gonna make this another hover. And then, so what's cool is like I have this reference, this line reference, but for the default state, I'm just gonna turn it off. Right? Oh wait, that's the wrong one.
And to your point, Pedro, I think there is a benefit to grouping assets before converting them to a component, just because I think it makes everything more clean. And if you're duplicating that asset across boards, it just makes it like a lot faster, and you don't have to like sift through multiple layers. You just have that one set component.
Yeah, and so we have the split screen co-editing, so you can see what both of us are doing, which is if you have ADD like me sometimes, you could just look at either one. So for mine on my right, I'm on your right side. I can take this line width down to like 1, and then make it a transparency to 0, and that is going to be for the default state. And then for the hover state, I just go back into, I can go back into my layers panel and click into that component and the path, and I'm just going to put that back to what it was before as far as the transparency, and then change the width. And then I'm able to go back to default so we can see it, and then let's see what that looks like.
Ooh, oh, I like that.
So you got a nice little, little animation there, and that's using component states in combination with auto animate, which it's actually a really simple thing to do. So that way we have already kind of 2 states on one artboard, and we can repeat that to the about. So we can just grab this component and take it to the about and just remove this old one. We are going to have to change the text on this to about, and we're also going to have to change it for the hover state. And then also, since this line is going to be a little shorter, just change it. So now both of those should work.
Okay.
So now about and products both work. And then the next page is getting started. So what I'm going to do now is go to the getting started, prototype that one up. And it's already there, but let's redo it. This is, okay, so it has, so I like the way you can kind of visualize this now, because it has a handle that tells you that there's an interaction attached to it, which is a hover, but then you can still have the direction going to it, so which is a really, really great feature. So yeah, that's just some fancy stuff that we can do with our component states. Who else is using component states and like loving it? Because I can't get enough of it. I feel like it's fun to go back into old projects that you've created and reconfigure the way you've prototyped them, because you can see how many artboards you're like getting rid of, and you can, you know, like
true,
you can totally get rid of a bunch of them. And so like you can imagine like this whole thing, like what can happen if I were to view boxes, hover over view boxes? Maybe the image got bigger, right? So like we can look at doing that. So if you were to stay on this page, let's see if we can do that. Yeah, I'm also like really interested in like how people like kind of approach the process of prototyping. Like, do they create components as they go? Are they mindful of it? Because I think sometimes if you're not mindful of it a little bit, you kind of like maybe make too many masks or too many layers within layers, and it's hard to like kind of fix them as you go.
Definitely.
But I think going in is like, when you're just roughly beginning, is just like, just don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And then when you like reapproach it, I think that's when you can kind of build it more
I agree.
scalable to your design.
Generally, I like making components if I'm doing like high fidelity things.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when I'm doing like stuff like this, I'm in a completely different zone. Like if I stop and make components, it kind of like distracts me.
Yeah.
So, But I think there is a great benefit to doing that, especially if your wireframes look pretty close to your high fidelity, because then if I have this, I can just change it. If I'm doing a high fidelity prototype, and it'll just be reactive.
Yeah, and I'm looking at like this page, this living and the selected living, like so I'm gonna go ahead and make this one and reduce it by an artboard, right?
Yeah.
So like you can just easily do that. And say a new state. So this one's different, right? So for everyone who hasn't done like other states other than hover, you do a new state, and that's selected, right? And so our selected state, now we can change this background. I got that. Same blue. Oh, that's the same blue. Let me get that from here. So yeah, we got the blue background, and then you could take the fill of that and just change that to white. And you're not doing anything destructive, and that's the great thing about modifying your element in the state, the new state, is then we could kind of just undo it if we want, but it's completely non-destructive to your document and your files. So we already have that, and then we had a button that kind of popped in once we chose, so we can actually just add that in. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, it messed. Somehow it messed it up. Let's go back.
Yeah, the icon masking is a little bit funky.
It is.
On that, yeah.
I think sometimes also like making sure your items. I didn't select all of them. That makes sense.
Yeah, understandable.
So like the whole thing. Now I can do it. Okay. And then now that I have my state. New state.
While you do that, I'm going to go in and steal some. I'm going to accept these changes. I'm going to steal some icons.
Yeah, this is the really, really great thing about co-editing. So now if you're on a design team, you can work side by side, or not even, like work from another country. And I think that's like the huge benefit of the co-editing feature that Colby just highlighted. So being able to kind of like just experiment with things, or like just kind of like flesh out new concepts.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, back to that that question about interviews.
Yes. Sorry, I'm not going to destroy this. I'm just going to move this for now because I need to grab all these. All right. Yes, going back to interviews.
So what is your tip aside from like knowing your audience? What other tips do you have to give for people that are preparing for a new role?
Oh man.
Potentially UX role.
So I personally feel like the way you display your work on your portfolio, like your web portfolio, will be different than how you're presenting it.
Okay.
Personally, I'm a lot more in depth on my website. Like I will go in like this like whole entire process from like the research all the way to like every wireframe I did to the end. Because in my personal opinion, like if like a recruiter or someone's looking at it doesn't want to read the whole process, they can skip through really easily.
Right.
But it's good to have that on your website if they're willing to go through the time. And then I think when you're presenting something in real life, that's more like where your storytelling comes in.
Right.
So that's when you really need to be like choosy about what you talk about. Like when you're presenting something to a group of designers, you're not going to want to talk about every single thing you did. Because unless it really adds to your product or adds to your presentation, then there's not really a point. So just being aware of how your product is being communicated in terms of storytelling is, I think, the biggest tip I can give people who are trying to present or interview. And then this really like goes down to like breaking down why you chose the problem, like how you attacked it, how you iterated on it, and the final product. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So then it's good to, I agree completely. Like if you have your portfolio, I would totally make your portfolio as robust as you can. And putting your solution to your problem ahead, is that something that you would recommend too? Like, do you show like what your core product is that you designed before you talk about your research and whatnot, or do you tease it up front so you kind of get a sense of what people are going to be seeing later? What do you feel?
Oh, I always like to tease. Like
Yeah.
what I like to do is I do key features. So maybe like 4 screens of like really flashy, like animated prototypes, just like this is an overview of our product, because that keeps people engaged. Like
Right.
if they're interested in your like really nicely done, polished UI, then they'll want to know how you got to it.
Right.
But to that point, I wouldn't front load the solution too much, because then they're like, okay, why'd you make this?
Right.
So
Yeah, that's a good advice. Because, and then the other thing that I would recommend too is just like getting yourselves like super familiar with like how you've come up with your solutions, and that is kind of like I think paramount to like a good UX designer to a good UX design interview, is if you're able to show like why you did the things you did in your designs, other than just like I felt like this was the best thing for it, like oh I did this research, or this this user story directly impacted this potential feature for this hypothetical, or maybe it's a real project you worked on. Because that's the other thing too, is like just because you only have like hypothetical work doesn't devalue the thinking behind it, right? Because I feel like that might be just something to really embrace as a new designer emerging, is don't feel like because your work isn't like in the wild and real, that it's not gonna get you a gig, because that's actually not true.
Yeah.
I've seen, even myself, like I've gotten gigs based off of hypothetical work.
oh yeah, I agree.
And because what you want to be able to really talk about is your process and the research you've done and the thinking behind the decisions you made.
Definitely.
So like, so kind of just to Pedro, just to like reiterate like the importance of just being familiar with the problem that you're directly speaking to, and the reasons why you came up with the solutions you did for those interviews. There's also another thing that happens, and that's like a whiteboard challenge. Have you ever had one of those?
No, actually, I've had like questions around it, like this is your audience, what would you do? But no whiteboards.
Okay, so that's another thing to just keep in mind if you ever have a UX interview, is what is the format? Like that just comes back to like talking to the recruiter or whoever it is that you were able to schedule this with, is what is the format and what should I expect? Because if there is like a whiteboard challenge, that can get really like, that can take you really far if you kind of know what to expect up front. And in my opinion, whiteboard challenges are only a way to see how you think. And as far as like a solution,
Yeah, that's not the important part, I don't think.
Yeah,
It's more about like getting there.
because like if you can get a solution, to come up with a solution in like whatever 20 minutes sometimes is what they give you, 20 to 30 minutes, like that's awesome. Like that's like, but that's possibly done if you like kind of pick apart the question and like just draw it out. So like something that I've done in the past for like whiteboard challenges is just like reiterating the challenge, defining like a quick user, and like getting a personality to that user, and like really just kind of creating a story, and then like really create a story arc, and like show like what is the potential path for this feature that you're asking me to build.
Definitely.
And then at the end, like maybe draw out like a possible solution, because like if you follow the process, you could potentially that is only if you get a whiteboard challenge, like which I think they're kind of rare.
They're pretty rare. Mostly it's just like questions, I think.
Yeah.
But I think they're really interesting. And I also think in those cases it's really helpful, like going back to like the power of telling a story. Like if you're building a solution in such a short amount of time, you're not gonna wanna flesh out every single feature.
Yeah.
Like choose a storyline and then walk through your like interviewer as if you were telling a story about the product.
Yeah.
So therefore you don't have to like account for every single situation that's gonna happen with your product. You're just gonna be like, this particular user is gonna be using it like this.
Right.
And this is what my product gives them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Colby, if for those folks that might not be familiar what whiteboard challenges are, I think it would be really, really a great thing to know, or possibly know what to expect. And it's essentially like a test to understand like your thought process for UX specific roles, or even product design roles, because a product designer still needs to know UX.
Definitely.
And it's essentially just a way for you to show your thinking And it's scary because it's like a lot of times, sometimes they're in the room watching you, or sometimes they like step away and come back. Like I've actually had one of these.
Oh yeah.
They told me in advance I'd have one. And there are some really great blogs out there for how to prepare for a whiteboard challenge. And that is something that could happen. It's not likely, but possible. So just be prepared. And also just like prepare yourself for some really weird questions.
Oh yeah.
Like what? Like I had asked like this like recently. Like what kind of animal would you be and why?
Oh, interesting.
And like, all right, like like so like you even get like some like weird questions like that. Also think about like what is it about yourself that needs work? Because that is a question that a lot of times you're gonna get asked is like, what about like your work, like your process or the way you work needs improvement? And like so to automatically like think about like your faults is kind of not like the best thing to do without thinking about it beforehand. Right?
I
It's
agree.
like,
I completely
think about
agree.
my faults. Like it's a long list.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time you got, but like also you want to paint it in a way that is gonna make you stand out too.
Yeah. And to the point, like a lot of times when I've been asked like what I would improve on this project I've shown, or like if they call out something, usually the best like responses I get is if I do like say, yes, I really wanted to improve this aspect.
Yeah.
Or this aspect wasn't what I imagined it to be, because it shows that you're thinking about it.
Right.
And I don't think any interviewer expects your project to be perfect.
Right.
Like especially if it's like if you're not a professional designer, for example. So it's really helpful to show that you've been thinking about these outside factors.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree, and that kind of goes back to like what you're designing. Like you kind of like just pick something that you're passionate about. If you do that, then you're gonna put your work in front of the people that you want to see your work. Like if you want to work at say X company like Adobe, then look at the Adobe system and design something for it, and put it on your portfolio of like, this is what I think a design, like this is maybe I think the way design systems should work in XD, or this is the way I think components could be looked at differently. Because all it is like trying to create new mental models for like these new features. And if you could do that, then that's amazing. And Tim posted up the Spectrum.Adobe, which is the design system that Adobe uses for all of these products that we use. And this is all stuff that's been thought out like that. Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, definitely really being diligent about being passionate about your approach and knowing why you made the decisions you made and point to possible research is a really good way.
And to that point, I think the project you present can really say something about yourself.
Yeah.
Like the products or the projects I like presenting are the ones that like include my like illustrations and include like changing behaviors, as well as like multi-platform approaches. And like that's who I am as a designer, and that's what I really enjoy. And then if you like tell that to the interviewer, they're more inclined to be like, yeah, like I understand who this person is as a designer.
Yeah. And also like find something to specialize in too. Like if it's if you're interested in like voice design, then
Super
like
cool.
just kind of like go all in on one thing, because that could also really take you really far. To kind of like put in perspective, like my specialty is in accessibility, so I've pretty much just done that type of work for the past year or two, and it is really just kind of becoming a specialized person in that field specifically. You can do that in a lot of different ways. You can do that with like speaking interfaces. If you are like trying to push like what designing for AI can be, like you can come up with a bunch of projects just around that. So it just really depends on what you're looking for to do with your career, and what trend kind of excites you. Because like we're coming to a point with like XD where the voice interface triggers are getting more robust. You're going to be able to do a lot more things with voice control. So those are things like that, are just like ideas to like inspire new work that you can kind of specialize in.
I agree.
And prototyping, if maybe like that's your thing. Maybe you just really, really like prototyping. And like coming up with solutions isn't your favorite thing, but you really like animating prototypes. Like that's totally something you can learn.
Yeah. Okay, should we try to make this, should we start building components?
Yeah.
I feel like I've built out the majority of the flow.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Oh man. Where do we start? I could go back and do these first, or we could just make this one look pretty.
Let's make this one look pretty.
Okay, let's do it. Cool. Let's see. So we're starting out with a search bar on top. Nope, too big.
The day that you can actually type, like live type into a prototype, into XD will be like the day
Oh, dude, yeah.
I know.
I agree. Completely agree.
So yeah, Pedro, your question is is Spectrum a SOP? I'm not sure what acronym that is, but it is basically it is actually the design system for Adobe. That because if you think about Adobe as like a product, like there's just so many products under Adobe's portfolio, and so like XD is just one tiny sliver of that, right? You have Photoshop and Illustrator, and the Creative Cloud is kind of like the glue to all of the products. But the glue to all of the design is actually Spectrum. And it's just a really, really great like system to design in. I had the pleasure of having full access to the Spectrum, the design library, and it's just really, really robust, and like now with components can be even more useful, just as a way for you to like, squish down all these different components into like one thing, which is just like bananas that you can do that now. So yeah, that's what. Oh, so standard operations procedure. Did not know that one.
It makes sense though. It's like what unifies everything. Okay.
That looks really good already.
Oh,
Look
thank
at
you.
that.
I'm gonna try to make that like that's what it looks like when it's all deselected, and then stick with that theme I had earlier, where if you select something, it turns blue. So it's like unselected, selected. I guess that I could also make this one blue. That might make things a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
And when you're prototyping that could very much just be like default states.
Yeah.
So it'd be really cool. I have the cost down here as well as that. I guess it would be fun if we could start pulling in images for these as well. The first one, I'm gonna just go back and stick with what I have here, just because I think that'd be pretty cool. Where is it? Yeah. Nope, it's a big one.
And in 6 minutes, we are going to be doing the design feedback for your challenges that have been posted and shared. So if you haven't posted something, go ahead and get it in there. You still got a few more minutes to put some finishing touches. Can't wait to see the work. Can't wait for you to see it. It's
I'm so
really
excited.
Cool. And I love the images that you chose. Like going very, very minimal is
it's
really, yeah.
Yeah, it's my brand. Let's see, should we drop shadow this or should we keep it? Let me try that out.
Oh, Colby, that's a great question. And anybody out there too that is interested in applying for Adobe Creative Residency, which I would recommend everybody to at least try if they have the time to do that. And what kind of UI kits you might want to build is, it's kind of open to what is the current problem that XD is trying to solve. I think would be a good start. So I think going into like kits that teach you how to use responsive resize appropriately, or kits that how to show you new ways to show you how to use component states. Like I think a big thing is design systems. Like that's like a really abstract concept for some designers, and if you're able to make that appealing and show it visually somehow, but also show how it works on the assets panel, you can do a lot of really cool stuff with creating UI kits for that. Alternatively, like if you wanted to do like a UI kit for a service template, like I think that works too. It's just a matter of like how in depth do you want to take, like what type of UI kit do you want to create? Do you want to create a UI kit that that gives you understanding of like how to use XD, and like is it like, because I think like someone like Howard Pinsky has done a really great job at putting together some of those use cases on letsxd.com, which if you haven't checked out letsxd.com, please do. It's got really great content for you to kind of pick apart some of these components and stuff that we're doing here in under XD's hood. But being able to create a UI kit that's like a fully developed product or project that someone can just like slap in their own content for, that's also a really strong use case. And for that, it would just be like a service like what Jessica's building right now, like an e-commerce would be really great. Some more like really UX, like instead of just visual design, like two screeners, like I think like a fleshed out like product like this could be really cool. But yeah, I mean, that could, unless there's something that you're interested specifically out there that you want to create kits that are something that is like personal to you, you could do that too. You could do anything. You could do a kit on like for me, I've been really wanting to do like a kit on like accessibility best practices, and I think that's something that like I should be doing.
Definitely.
Just haven't yet.
I think that's necessary.
Putting together a kit that to help someone solve something that like maybe you have a problem trying to understand and solve is also really helpful. So that, I mean, that's all I could kind of really offer. There's tons of good kits out there, and I think the best ones that do it are the ones that kind of just like you're able to reverse engineer, because they kind of get hard to implement some of these things when you're kind of working directly from a document from a kit. But if you're able to easily reverse engineer a kit, I think that's a successful kit. Yeah.
I agree.
Look at that. It's already looking like a real product here.
Thank you. I get a lot of spacing. Okay.
Yeah, I recommend the Adobe Creative Residence though for anybody out there that's
Looks super cool.
really interested in doing it. And if you know any illustrators or photographers, it's not just for designers, it's for whatever creative tool that you use that's from Photoshop to Illustrator, right? And we have the design feedback in almost 2 minutes.
Oh, awesome.
And so if you have some final touches, go ahead and make those and post your projects. Can't wait to see what you have. It's going to be working on looking at a watch interface for a time countdown to meet Santa or whatever holiday it is that you celebrate.
It's like a mobile advent calendar.
Yeah, mobile advent calendar. Or it's going to be a Santa tracker. So we'll see. We'll see what people submit. It's going to be really cool. Yeah, I can't wait until I don't have to do too many UX interviews anymore.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean they're
fun.
They can
really
be fun.
Tiring.
They are tiring.
Yeah.
I've been in one that lasted like 4 hours.
Oh my goodness, what'd you even talk about?
Everything.
Like every single project you've done,
like
ever.
everything. It was so long.
Oh geez.
So yeah, they're definitely an adventure.
And
the more you do them, the better you'll get.
Yeah.
So even if it's like
I agree.
you like, this place doesn't look that great, it's an opportunity for you to practice. Like just practice how you speak about your work.
I think that's the thing about interviews. You have to fail at them to get good at them.
Yeah.
Like I definitely like sophomore, junior year, like I blew so many interviews for sure.
I blew a few.
Is that you like when you walk out, you're like, I'm never gonna talk about that thing again, or I'll talk about it like a lot better.
Yeah. No, it's really hard to
process.
talk about your work sometimes. All right, we have our design feedback coming up in a few seconds. So we're gonna go ahead and pause on our live design, and we'll come back to working on some of these interfaces here. But I'm currently in the current challenge. So if you have submitted something, it will be here. So we have, since I last logged in, there's been 16 new messages, which is really cool. That
wow, look at you guys.
That means that there's stuff in here. All right, so I'm looking at This is 5, and this was submitted today. So why not look at what's published today? Oh, look at that one. Santa tracker, 2 screens.
Ooh, let's see. That's so cute.
All right, where is Santa?
Oh, it runs through like a little like Christmas card.
I like
It's,
that.
fold- yeah, that's really cute.
Can I appreciate the candy cane and the ribbon to make a tea?
Yeah, that's great. Oh,
Look at that.
that's so cool.
Okay, where do I go next? Let's see.
Okay, is the social media like Santa's social media or like your social media? 'Cause that'd be really cool. Like Santa, like Instagram page.
Oh,
Like hashtag I'm visiting like Austria. I don't know.
okay, we got a little hover trigger for the search.
Oh, that's cool.
I think that's the only trigger on there. I really liked this like holiday idea of like a holiday card that kind of then goes into this tracker to kind of like bring in people's experience of like what it is to receive a card.
Definitely.
So yeah, what do you think? What do you think about this design?
I think it's adorable. Like especially it really fits the holiday spirit.
And it's not, and it's Canada.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's really cool. Like I really like that hover animation because if you like move off it, it really blends in with the rest of the UI.
Yeah.
And I agree, it's like it's not really something that has to be there constantly, but you can access it when you need to.
Yeah, this is great.
I think it'd be also kind of cool if you like maybe lowered the opacity of the map a little bit because it's like the green color is kind of fighting a little bit with your icons.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think
great
that'd be nice.
Yeah, and I love the Santa here that you put in there. It's a really cute little animation. Whether you design it or not, it's still a good choice. And back to Jess's point about these, I'm not sure. Like, yeah, who does Santa have an Instagram? Like, he should. If he doesn't, he needs to get one.
Yeah, it'd be really cute.
But it's really really great. I love it. I do really love it. It's really fun. Okay, let's go to another one here. And that was submitted by Needy. So thank you so much for that one.
Good work.
All right, we have this one from Sanjeev. And this one is for...
Oh, look at you got the brief and everything.
Yeah,
Great.
really, thank you for doing that. It makes it a lot easier. This was for day... This was for day 5. Okay.
Ooh.
Let's see how much we can get there. So like a little e-commerce.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little prototype here.
Oh, let's watch it. Oh, is everything on discount right now?
It's Black Friday. No. Nice.
Nice.
So you got one page. So what do you think about? Like? First off, thank you so much for submitting this, and I think that it's really successful on, showing you what you're going to be doing with this front page, looking kind of like a box, right? Like kind of like the visual treatment of it. And I just think it communicates what you need to do pretty easily. What do you think about some of the implementation?
Could you press play again?
Yeah.
Shop now. Yeah, I really like the fact that you have all the images, like, what's it called? When it's like not symmetrical,
Yeah.
asymmetrical.
Yeah, it's like off.
Yeah, it's like off center.
Yeah. So the grid is like you're not just sticking to like the easy traditional grid. You're breaking the rules, kind of,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah, I would only say like if you're talking in terms of photo, and I don't know if like these are the photos you would use, like if this was actually built out as a product, but it doesn't really tell me what I'm getting within. So like I see the like ornament, I'm like, okay, I'm probably gonna get an ornament, but what does this product actually look like?
Right.
So I think it like does a great job like communicating like the holiday spirit and like the festivity you're gonna get when you buy these products, but maybe showing it a little bit more clearly. But I think it's a great job.
Yeah, keep pushing it too, because I think there's a lot that you can do with like a next page. And I think if you were to look at what Jess is doing here, she's creating a lot of those patterns of like what happens when you select that. And what's the next page?
Yes.
But I think that a lot can happen there. And also, if you have the filter, play with that, and you can do a lot of really cool things with filter. There's a lot of glitter on this page,
Definitely.
But I think it's
But
great.
it's
It is Christmas. Yeah. When do you start putting decorations up?
Oh man, my family's not like a super big Christmas like family, like, but we have a really small like fake tree, and we just have like assorted ornaments.
So
Usually it's like when I come back home from break.
So Christmas doesn't explode in your
It
house?
doesn't explode. No.
Okay.
It's more like a whisper. It's like, it's happening.
Okay, it's around the corner.
How about you? Are you a big Christmas person?
I'm in between. I'm definitely not a Grinch or a Grouch. I embrace it, but I usually wait like for like a week before. But
understandable.
now my household, my daughter has the Christmas spirit, and so like the day after Thanksgiving, it is on. We get a tree, so whoever does it early, I appreciate you because it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, I love that name. 7 Deadly Scents.
7 Deadly Scents. Okay, this was a one from a week ago, because this is a 2-week challenge that we're doing.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So this is scents, a prototype to modify and customize your scents, and these were using like new some of these new animations, some of these new states. So being able to have click states.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Oh, great use of that, like the selecting color change is like really nice.
Right, and so the pattern that they used there was like you're kind of what should you do for mobile, right? And they used that button to click to change quantity, which I think is a really good thing to understand and look at. Like, what is the behavior of desktop and what is the behavior of mobile, right? Because they are different, and you're gonna design it differently because the affordances are different.
Because like the click or tap point is a lot different. Like your mouse is a lot smaller than your fingertip.
Yeah. This is really great though.
Yeah, I love it.
Like I think I like the simplicity of it. I know what I'm doing.
So here you're choosing your bottle type, and then for here one comment I would say is I like how it's really themed. Like you can choose like from your deadly sin or whatever, but I don't really have any information about how it's ultimately going to smell like. So if I wanted to like toggle back and forth, I would have to like go up and go back down to like check what I'm getting. So maybe like a little line of like copy underneath each one. It's like this one will smell like I don't know, seduction, whatever your scent is. Yeah.
So yeah, I see what you're saying. Like you kind of are guessing at like what does pride smell like? Like what does sloth smell like?
It's like food. Or like
I don't know.
That's gluttony. Never mind. I'm getting my sins mixed up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's a really interesting idea though. Like, what do your 7 deadly sins smell like?
I really like that.
Thank you so much for that submission. Really, really great stuff. Let's see if we have anything specifically around Santa. Look at this one. Here we go.
Oh.
It's a mobile.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh wow. Those harbor states.
It's in Indianapolis.
Kansas City.
All right.
Oh, you get this. It's like when you track your package on UPS. So cool.
Okay.
So I like how you took like a very practical approach to this. Like
I'm really liking how you can get around, and I think it totally, like, for me, I would love something like this too, just to show my daughter, because I like being able to like show like, oh, Santa's actually out there doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. Like I like the amount of information you're giving, and you're really thinking about like the process. Like when you click on this, what would you get afterwards? And can you do that real quick?
Yeah. So I'm hovering over Indianapolis.
And you click into that. And where's that screen that pops up when you get like the different... Yes, that part's really cool.
Yeah.
So I like the degree of like customization you have within it, and I think that's super cool.
Because, Santa wants you to be able to manage your settings. Yeah.
Definitely.
Great work there.
Yeah.
Let me see who submitted that. That was Pedro. Pedro, thank you so much.
Good job.
If you're in the chat, make yourself known, because that was really great work. We have time for another Santa tracker. Let's do this one. Who's this one? This submitted this. This was Lizling.
Oh,
look at that. Wow. Well, first, props on finding vector for for maps. They're always hard. They're not.
Definitely.
They seem like they're easy, but they're not. Okay, so we're hovering over this area, which is like kind of broadly Europe.
Broadly Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like my knowledge of geography.
All right.
Greetings. What happens if you, can you click that?
Yeah, let's click greetings.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, so is it, no, would it be dependent on the language for you? Or
Not
not?
sure.
'Cause
Well,
you're in Europe.
Spain.
Yeah.
Europe Spain is part of
Yeah.
Europe.
Because that'd be super cute.
Yeah, like you can get a greeting based off of like exactly like regionally. Yeah. Let's see if I can go back. Is there a way to go back? So I have the one option.
Okay. So
I have Europe and I have Spain.
Mm.
Oh, look at that.
Okay.
We got another hover. Okay. I like how the
Okay,
I like
I
how
see
the,
you.
I see that. All right.
So arrival time. I love you put in the alias. Yeah, that's what it's pronounced.
Father Christmas. Okay, so it's educational too.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, I could like very easily see this being super educational. Like you could
Yeah.
inform about like what Christmas is in a different language or like how they celebrate it there. That'd be super cool.
Right. No, really great stuff. I love the concept of bringing in like some sort of education and like geography into the picture.
Yeah.
I did not know that they call Santa Claus Papa Noel in Spain.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great work here.
I would love to see like what fun facts and games are because that'd be super cool.
Yeah, no, you really did something cool and different. It's kind of like in this fun fact, right? Like, would love to see what games are. Really great stuff. If you were able to develop all those other features, I would love to see those too.
Definitely.
But yeah, great work there. Really cool. Do we have time for one more? You want to do one more?
Let's do one more.
Okay, let's do one more.
This is really fun.
All right. This one, oh yeah, we gotta do this one. Aaron John, I believe. Okay, Jonathan.
Ooh.
Look, that looks great already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you? Yeah.
Let's see if we can copy that. All right, Jonathan. Let's see what we got here. Hover.
Cover.
Oh, he's in Turkey. Greenland. Okay, let's go to US. Let's see. Oh. Okay, we know we can go. We can hover. We have a search hover trigger. And these are all like hover states. So I really, just to start, like I really like the simplicity of what you're doing as a tracker. And using the time would be really cool to even maybe see if that could change depending on where you hover, right? Because it is a different time everywhere.
Right.
But I really do like, I like the way that you have this path for Santa. My only like offering is like to make the typeface a little bigger.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if maybe it's because I'm looking at it like in a zoomed out version of the prototype, but it's kind of, my eyes aren't the greatest, so it's a little small. I can't actually like read what it says.
Oh yeah, I think it's
Approximate.
Yeah. Check in.
3:23 a.m. Okay,
Yeah.
I could read it.
Yeah.
Just a little strain. But if it was bigger, I can see how that could be
Definitely.
fine.
I also want to say that I like the color palette you chose because it's like minimalistic Christmas, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's snow and then you have like highlights in red.
Right.
And I think that's like a great transition, like or translation of the theme.
I like that too.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good point of like being minimalistic is like a good universal like UX like way to include other people because Christmas is to a lot of people religious, but not to everybody. Right? It's like Santa is like non-denominational. Like he's supposed to be just like this jolly dude that makes toys.
Exactly.
Like he's not supposed to be like a Catholic symbol, although to some he is.
Yes. Exactly.
So by making it minimal, you're being more inclusive. So I like that. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna see if let me see if I have one more. I don't have any more. I have one more Santa tracker.
Ooh.
Let's do one more.
Let's do it.
Let's see. I always choose the wrong thing. Where's that? No, that one's not a full design. Let's see. Oh, someone did that.
Someone did
I'll let the next people do that. Oh, we have one more Santa tracker. Okay.
So,
Last Santa tracker, and then we're gonna get into
I like
finishing.
the icons. I'm actually like a big fan of like heavy stroke illustrated icons for some reason. They're just like a personal thing.
Well, they're also really legible, right? That's the and you already.
Oh my
put
god,
this
you did
in.
the whole style guide. Look at you.
Look at that.
Wow. I like that font.
Yeah. Is that what you're using for yours?
Something similar. Yeah.
Look at that.
Oh
Process
my
all
gosh.
there and then full prototype.
Wow.
All right, you gotta hover. Yeah. I like the arrival time. 2 hours. And bringing like a picture of the actual place in context to like your illustrations are actually really cool. I really like it. I think the simplicity again is there. I appreciate that you've kind of done your work on like building a little system. Super cool.
Yeah, and it's like from the callouts on your Behance post as well, you can tell like very obviously what feature is what.
Yeah. And would like to know, like, are you actually from Nepal and in Kathmandu?
Yeah.
That, if so, that's really cool. Thanks for being here.
That's awesome. I love the ornaments. They're so cute.
So Sarji, thank you so much for your submission, and thank you everyone who submitted. Keep submitting, because that does, just because I reviewed your designs doesn't mean they're not going to get reviewed again. On Monday, we'll come back to reviewing your designs that you've designed. Whether it's the Santa tracker, if you have some, or if you have some, we'd love to see the countdown. If you can design some of those countdowns and submit them. We have one in there, so I'm going to leave that for the next host to review. So please keep submitting your design, your creative challenges, and just keep it going, because practice is going to help you at the end. And you have some really good people reviewing next week too. So come back to that. So, and also just a tip on the creative challenge. This is the last day is tomorrow for our last creative challenge for the 2-week challenge. Next week, we're going to have a 1-week challenge with Sam Anderson. And he's got something really, really cool lined up for you that's different, because it's a week. Usually we give 2 weeks. You really want to take part in that, because he's got something really cool planned out for you. So Sarji, if you, thank you for submitting. Log back on Monday and learn about the new challenge, because there's going to be some really, really cool stuff. So just come back for that. All right, and we have, and also I mentioned this before, letsxd.com. If you ever wanted to like dig a little bit deeper on how to use some of these new tools, go here. We have some really, really great people putting together content. And if Colby, if you're still around, like look at what Howard Pinsky is doing and like how he's invigorating the XD audience. So if you can create tools for people that make them better designers, like you're doing great work. And I feel like someone like Howard is someone to emulate as far as like what kind of kits you prepare. So if you look into the freebies, you can see all of the really cool things that has been prepared for you. So take a look at that when you get a chance. It's really good stuff. And that's my UX literature in the Discord channel. If you're interested in getting some recommendations on books. Those are just some of the ones that I think should be there. Apparently, Designing for Everyday Things by Don Norman needs to be there, and maybe I'll add it one day. Yeah, so back to creating your mobile experience. We're almost at a good place to show.
Yeah.
Right? You're already.
I could link it together, honestly. Like, it's not fleshed out yet, but it's working. So with this one, I'm actually gonna not do this fill state because I feel like it clashes too much with the button. I would prefer if it's just like maybe highlighted blue. I think that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah, the XD people are pretty cool. I had the opportunity to contract here for a little while, and while I was here, was able to meet some amazing people. The XD team, Sam included, who you're going to see next week during the Creative Challenge, they just really, really want to make better products for designers. And I think that was like probably like the coolest thing to do is like while here designing, like you're designing for designers using the design tool that you're trying to redesign. So it gets very meta. You're
Yeah.
very meta real quick. Like first off,
Almost like mess with your brain.
designing for designers is a really interesting thing, and you have to kind of step back from your own style. So the XD team here and all the other designers that design other tools like Photoshop are really, really great people. I love how the UX faces just
Yeah, it just did it.
magically.
Yeah. I used to like spend time like hunting online, just like looking for that like right crop.
The right crop, the
Yeah.
right photo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you have those the machine learning photo generated photos that are not even real people.
Huh.
I don't
know.
think this is that. This is not
Yeah.
that.
I'm gonna group this
Yeah.
one.
There's like the machine learning algorithm that creates like faces that are like not real people. That's kind of cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, we have a few more minutes before we wrap up. Just go ahead and keep designing.
Yeah.
We'll be able to come back tomorrow and really dress up these more.
Yes.
We already got through all the
Yeah,
wireframes.
let me link it real quick. Actually, that'd be fun.
Yeah. And for everybody that is here, we have our creative challenge today that is happening after this broadcast. And then tomorrow I'll be back and we'll be talking more about bare necessities and digging deeper into the visual design on this concept and how we're able to like translate the web version to a mobile version,
Definitely.
which is, I think your audience might be kind of more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Like if you're thinking of roommates, especially like in a college setting, it's really, then Tim Mobius found that thing I was talking about, thispersondoesnotexist.com.
Oh.
It's a machine learning trick.
Wow, is that like, do they look like Uncanny Valley?
It looks,
sort of
no, they
feel?
look,
Like
not,
just
they've
real?
crossed the Uncanny Valley. It's
crazy.
I would recommend everyone to check it out because it's really cool. But yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow to learn more about like how component states can kind of like make it easier when you're designing some prototype elements, and then kind of just like learning more about like what you have to share as far as like being a designer in this world.
Okay, let's just link this up real quick. And
Yeah,
see
you
what
got a
happens.
couple minutes left.
Okay, and this page goes to this page. Okay, let's see what happens. I feel like the first time I link things, it always like breaks. So we gotta scroll. If you click on cleaning, it ideally filters, and you select on product. Cool, and then you can switch to lavender if you so desire. I need to change the size there. Okay, and then you select a quantity, do till, do a one-time order, tag the person who I guess this order belongs to, and you can add it to your box. Have a confirmation. Nice.
Sweet. So we're gonna get that more polished up on the next. And is it those are the screens that are gonna stay? Those screens you're just gonna make them more jazzy and
Yeah.
more fun.
Probably gonna move around some like UI elements after I add the hi-fi. So
Okay,
I think
cool.
some things could be tweaked, but yeah.
Do you want to bring up that doc of what you decided, what your plan was today?
Yes. Let's see what we got. It's this one.
There you go, our agenda.
Yeah. So we did that. We did the overview, the web experience, and the flow. We pretty much finished the mobile wireframes, and I guess I made like a button blue. So we did make mobile components.
Yeah, we'll just finish up the components tomorrow, and then we'll get going on making this thing look real.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I can connect it to the rest of my wireframes.
All right, everybody. Jessica, did you have a good time today?
Yeah, it was great.
All right, well,
Great
join us
time.
tomorrow. We'll be back designing this in the prototype mode and linking the components and making it look really cool. Thank you for being here today, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.